Morning everyone, it's Clive. It's another brew day. It's Saturday the 3rd of March 2012 and today I'm going to have a go at making my own variety of Castle Rock's Harvest Pale. Now what I've got here, this is the malt stage. I've got the three different types of malt. The first one, 95% of Harvest Pale is made of lager malt. So I've got myself 5 kgs of lager malt. And we also have a small amount of the normal pale malt. So here we go, we have the Otter pale malt, and then we have a small amount of something called Torrefied wheat. Now I'm looking at the malt. It doesn't look a great deal. I've never used lager malt before. It looks pretty similar to normal pale malt. There you go. Not much difference between those two. The Torrefied wheat, however, does look a little bit like breakfast cereal. So here we go. I'm going to add these to the mash tuns already, and my water is all nicely boiled and then cooled down to 80 degrees C. So that's ready now to put into the mash tun with the malt. Speak to you later. Okay, now I've just added all of my malt to the mash tun, and as you can see now, I've added some water, some of the cooled boiled water. So the water was cooled to about 80 degrees C, and I've added about 9 litres. And you can see it's still just working its way down through the mash, through the malt. So you want obviously the water to totally soak all of the malt to make sure that you get maximum extraction of sugar from the malt. And what I better do now is cover it up because I don't want it to cool down. So I'll put the lid on and then we leave that for about an hour and a half, and they come back later, and then I extract the malt extract from the grain. So that'll be the next step. Okay everyone, this is probably my second favourite of the processes that you go through. Water in here, about 80 degrees C. In fact, I'll just turn up the thermostat just to keep the temperature of the water. This is boiled water that is going through here, going through the tube and through the malt in the mash tun. So this is what I like to call sparging, or it probably is called sparging by everyone else. So basically this is just washing the sugar out of the malt, and then what you've got here in the bottom bucket is the malt extract, and this is where all the lovely sugar is that will turn to alcohol to make our lovely beer. There you go, that's the sparging process. Okay, while the malt is being sparged in the mash tun, I thought I'd show you what I normally do with my yeast. Now, as I live in Nottingham, I decided it was a good idea to use Nottingham yeast for my beer. So this is what I normally use for my brewing. So what you normally do is rehydrate the yeast. What I've got in here, I've got 110 mils of boiled water. I'm waiting for this now to cool down to less than 30 degrees C. And as you can see, it's still just over 30 degrees. It's sort of a low 30. So when that's less than 30 degrees C, I'll add the yeast into the water. Here we go. This is my fermentation bin, and as you can see, what I'm doing is actually soaking in sterilising solution at the moment, just to make sure it's totally clean for when we put the beer into it. And rather than using sort of beer, the expensive beer sort of sterilising stuff, I basically use this stuff. This works just as well. If it's good enough for babies, it's good enough for beer, I reckon. Oh, here you go. Here's 25 litres of malt extract. Now this is going to go back into the boiler with the hops. However, I've discovered that this isn't enough. If you boil up this 25 litres of malt extract in the boiler, by the time you boiled it for an hour and a half, you'd have lost quite a bit. You'd have lost at least 5 litres. So what I normally do is I've got a little bit of extra water which I'm now running through the malt, and I will probably run off at least another 5 or 6 litres of malt extract, and I use this to top up the boiler as the extract evaporates from during the hot boiling process. So I've got a few containers that I'm going to fill up, and I'm going to carry on with a little bit of water left in the bottom of the boiler, and this will just go through the malt just to give me that little bit of extra malt extract. It's pretty weak, but it'll do to top up. There's a bit of sugar left in there. That's enough to top up the, as I said, the boiler. Okay, these are the hops that I'm going to be using in the beer today. Now, Castle Rock beer actually uses Chinook, Centennial and Cascade hops. Well, I couldn't get hold of Centennial or Chinook, and apparently Chinook won't be available for ages. So I've got alternatives. So for Centennial I've got something called Pilot, which is Pilot. And Pilot is described as having lemon, spicy and marmalade flavour, I suppose. And for Chinook I've substituted Galena, and Galena is described as adding spicy blackcurrant and grapefruit. So that should be interesting. So they'll be added when the malt extract, which is currently boiling, has got to temperature. So it's about just over 90 degrees at the moment. Here we go, folks. This is my favourite stage of beer making. This is when we're boiling up the hops in the malt extract. Oh, you can really smell the hops in there. I'm at the sort of 10 to 15 minute into the boil stage now, and I've been adding quite a lot of hops. This beer seems to be quite hop hungry. I've already added, at the beginning of the boil I added 26 grams of Cascade, 12 grams of Pilot and 14 grams of Galena, and at 10 minutes I added another 18 grams of Pilot, another 40 grams of Cascade, and that will continue. At 20 minutes I'm going to be adding another 12 grams of Pilot and 23 grams of Cascade, and at the end of the boil I'll add 5 grams of Galena. So quite a lot of hops there. Okay, my boiled water has cooled down to less than 30 degrees. I added the Nottingham yeast. That was probably about 45 minutes ago, and you can see that the yeast is nicely hydrated. And that, when things are ready, will be added to the beer to convert the malt sugar into alcohol.